Sheryl Swoopes just did a complete 180 on Caitlin Clark, and it happened on live television. After spending an entire year claiming Clark was overrated, overhyped, and wouldn't succeed in the WNBA, Swoopes is now praising the Indiana Fever phenom and her team. Either you get on a bandwagon or you get left behind. Being a hater of Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, in Clark's rookie season even insinuating that players would flee the team because of the attention around the team, the basketball world is in shock. Nancy Lieberman ended her friendship with Swoopes over these attacks. Cheryl Miller called her a big dummy on a podcast. Yet now, as if none of it ever happened, Swoopes is acting like Clark's biggest fan. The receipts don't lie, and I've got all of them right here. Are you ready to break it all down and hear what Swoopes said? Remember when Sheryl Swoopes claimed Caitlin Clark was a 25-year-old playing against teenagers? That wasn't just a casual slip-up. It was the beginning of what would become a year-long campaign of misinformation. Let's pull out the receipts on Swoopes' bizarre vendetta against women's basketball's brightest star. The timeline of Swoopes' attacks is both consistent and consistently wrong. During Clark's record-breaking college career, Swoopes launched her first major salvo by questioning the legitimacy of Clark's NCAA scoring achievement. On Gil's Arena, she boldly declared, "If Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. You asked me back, Caitlin, if you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that that player set it." Okay, right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record? This statement ignored a basic fact. Clark did break the record in 4 years, exactly the same time frame as Plum. Swoopes insinuated Clark had unfairly benefited from COVID-19 rules allowing a 5th year, a year Clark never actually took. What makes these comments so problematic isn't just their inaccuracy, it's the absolute certainty with which Swoopes delivered them. She spoke with the confidence of someone stating the sky is blue, not someone spreading falsehoods that could be fact-checked with a simple Google search. When confronted with corrections rather than acknowledging her mistakes, Swoopes dug her heels in deeper. The attacks evolved as Clark's career progressed. When Clark prepared to enter the WNBA, Swoopes confidently predicted doom. Will Caitlin Clark be a good pro? Absolutely. Will Caitlin Clark come into the WNBA and do what she's doing right now immediately? Absolutely not. Not gonna happen. Well, guess what did happen? Clark dominated her rookie season, leading the entire league in assists, broke 62 records, and claiming Rookie of the Year honors. Respectfully, there is absolutely no way, even when we're trying to see here and play semantics about dominating, there's no way that anyone could ever leave this season is saying that both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese didn't dominate. You would have to further explain what dominance means for you to not sit here and say that a player who is a lead in the league in assists while averaging 19 to 20 points didn't dominate that season. Even as Clark proved her wrong on the court, Swoopes shifted her criticisms to the rest of the team and the culture, and how apparently, in her words, the circus created by the Caitlin Clark fandom has created a toxic environment in the locker room. By comparing Clark's actual age, 22 at that time, actual statistics, and actual achievements against Swoopes' fabricated narrative, a clear pattern emerges. This wasn't a respected analyst offering fair criticism. This was a calculated campaign to diminish one of women's basketball's biggest stars at every turn. The basketball world took notice. Nancy Lieberman, Stephen A. Smith, and ultimately Cheryl Miller would step forward to challenge Swoopes' assertions. These weren't just random commentators. These were respected voices in basketball standing up to say, enough is enough. The breaking point came when Lieberman, one of the most respected voices in women's basketball, attempted to have a private conversation with her longtime friend Swoopes. "I called her as a friend," Lieberman revealed, "and I said, you can say whatever you want, but you do have to get the statistics right. Facts matter." This wasn't just a casual disagreement between colleagues. This was Lieberman trying to salvage both the truth and a friendship. "I got off the treadmill and I called her as a friend. And I said, You can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. And, you might like Boston, I might like the Yankees. It's okay to have difference of opinions. Well, she got upset with me on the phone, and I was like, Cheryl, I'm not doing anything to hurt you. I'm just sharing. We're talking. And so our relationship, it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good. We're great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life. I'd rather have her in it. Swoopes didn't take the criticism well. The relationship between these two basketball legends, according to Lieberman, it's now pretty much done. They haven't spoken since that conversation, marking an extraordinary moment when defending Clark's achievements literally cost Lieberman a long-time friendship in basketball circles. The situation became so notable that Lieberman discussed this personal fallout on the Stephen A. Smith Show, where Smith provided a platform for challenging Swoopes' assertions. This wasn't just media drama. It represented something unprecedented in basketball culture. Respected figures actively using their platforms to counter what they saw as an unfair campaign against a rising star. But the most jaw-dropping moment came from Cheryl Miller. The basketball icon didn't just disagree with Swoopes. She demolished her credibility on the wildly popular All the Smoke podcast. I was like, come on, you big dummies, Miller declared, with the kind of bluntness that only someone of her stature could get away with on a major platform. What made Miller's takedown particularly devastating wasn't just her legendary status, it was her first-hand experience. Having coached Clark in the 2024 WNBA All-Star Game, Miller brought authentic insights rather than speculation. She praised Clark's exceptional court vision, noting, "The one thing that I don't think people really appreciate about that young lady's game, she can pass." Miller described Clark as seeing the game in 3D version, offering a sophisticated basketball analysis that directly contradicted Swoopes' simplistic dismissals. This wasn't just another talking head weighing in. This was Cheryl Miller, a basketball icon, using her credibility to defend Clark's legitimacy while simultaneously exposing the hollow nature of Swoopes' criticisms. What's remarkable isn't just that these basketball luminaries stepped up to defend Clark. It's that they risked professional relationships and put their own reputations on the line to do so. Such actions don't happen over trivial disagreements. They happen when respected figures recognize that something fundamentally unfair is occurring and feel compelled to speak out. Yet despite this unprecedented pushback from some of basketball's most respected voices, Swoopes refused to acknowledge her mistakes or offer any apology to Clark. The criticisms from legends seemed to only entrench her position further, suggesting her campaign against Clark had moved beyond basketball analysis into something more personal. Watching her pass said, "I didn't know how talented she was and how well she sees the game in a 3D version. Thinker, defensively a lot better than I thought and gave her credit for." So watching her and just spending a little time, and what the guys that I've learned is to step back and let these kids be themselves. In a twist that left basketball fans checking their calendars, Sheryl Swoopes has suddenly transformed from Clark's harshest critic to her newest cheerleader. After months of entrenched opposition and doubling down against mounting evidence, Swoopes performed the most stunning reversal in sports commentary history, and the timing couldn't be more suspicious. And this is the most unabashed praise I've ever seen from Swoopes. Go Clark and the Fever's way. During a recent interview that's since gone viral, Swoopes, who spent an entire year dismissing Clark's abilities, abruptly changed her tune. She praised the Indiana Fever as legitimate championship contenders for the upcoming season, the same team she previously insisted would struggle despite Clark's presence. With surprising enthusiasm, Swoopes highlighted Clark getting stronger and praised the Fever's off-season acquisitions, acting as though she'd been a believer all along. What makes this 180-degree turn so jarring is its convenient timing. Swoopes waited until after Clark had conclusively proven her wrong by earning All-Star, All-WNBA, and Rookie of the Year honors. Only after Clark had silenced critics with her on-court performance did Swoopes suddenly decide the Fever might be worth her respect. The calculated nature of this reversal hasn't gone unnoticed by fans, who've been quick to call out what appears to be opportunistic bandwagoning. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from disbelief to outright mockery. "She admits defeat," wrote one fan on X, while another dubbed it the switch-up of the century. The overwhelming skepticism speaks to how deeply Swoopes' previous criticisms had alienated basketball followers, creating a level of distrust her sudden praise can't easily overcome. Perhaps most telling is what Swoopes didn't say. Throughout her praise for Clark and the Fever, she carefully avoided acknowledging any of her previous statements or offering even the slightest apology. She spoke as if the past year of attacks never happened, making her newfound support feel hollow and strategically motivated rather than genuine. What caused such a dramatic shift? Several possibilities come to mind. Network executives may have applied pressure, recognizing that continued criticism of the WNBA's biggest star was becoming increasingly untenable. Perhaps Swoopes finally recognized she was on the wrong side of basketball history as Clark's popularity and success continued to soar. Or maybe external pressures, like maintaining relevance in the media landscape, forced her hand. Disrespecting those that came before that was one of the base root premise of the backlash, was that the Clark fans came in and only cared about Clark and not anybody else, and now everybody else has joined up with Clark. The most likely explanation combines all these factors. As Clark's undeniable success mounted and basketball legends publicly condemned Swoopes' stance, continuing the anti-Clark campaign became professionally risky. Her about-face feels less like a genuine appreciation for Clark's talent and more like a calculated attempt to salvage her credibility after being proven wrong repeatedly. While Swoopes scrambles to salvage her reputation, a legitimate championship contender has quietly assembled in Indianapolis. Is it possible that after a year of getting everything wrong about Clark, Swoopes finally got something right about the Fever's potential, even if it was for all the wrong reasons? Look at what the Fever have actually built this offseason. Joanna Bonner brings immediate offensive firepower to the roster. 15 points and 6 rebounds per game for Connecticut last season at age 36. This isn't just a signing for leadership, it's adding a 6-time All-Star and 2-time champion who's still producing at an elite level. Then there's Natasha Howard, a former Defensive Player of the Year with 3 championship rings on her resume. Her acquisition directly addresses what held the Fever back defensively last season. The front office has essentially fast-tracked their rebuild by pairing these veterans with their young stars. Next we have battle-tested veterans Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, and Brianna Turner, all filling key needs in the roster that can bring the added spark off the bench through their shooting, defense, and leadership. What makes this particularly exciting for Fever fans is how these moves specifically complement Caitlin Clark's and Aaliyah Boston's development. Boston showed tremendous promise in her first 2 years, but now she'll have championship-caliber veterans to accelerate her growth. Swoopes herself highlighted Boston's continued improvement, suggesting the Fever frontcourt has transformed into something much more formidable overnight. Clark's off-season development shouldn't be overlooked either. Even Swoopes had to acknowledge how much stronger Caitlin got in the off-season. She was in the gym working on her game. After leading the league in assists as a rookie and breaking 62 records while adjusting to the professional level, imagine what Clark might accomplish with added strength and a year of experience under her belt. Not only did she give Clark credit for working on her game and getting stronger, so there was specific, a single out of Clark that wasn't, masked in any sort of shade. Let's be real, Cheryl went out of her way, at times, to, knock down or discredit or, insinuate the worst. The timing couldn't be better for the Fever. As the Liberty enter potential dynasty territory, Indiana has positioned themselves as the perfect challenger. Young enough to sustain excellence for years, but now experienced enough to compete immediately. The combination of Clark's generational passing ability, Boston's interior presence, Kelsey Mitchell's scoring, Lexi Hull's hustle, and the championship pedigree of their new veterans creates a formula we've seen work before in WNBA title runs. What's particularly impressive is how rapidly this transformation has occurred. Most rebuilds take years of careful development, but the Fever have essentially compressed that timeline through strategic veteran acquisitions that address specific needs. without sacrificing their young core's development opportunities. What we've just witnessed from Swoopes is nothing short of remarkable. After a year of baseless attacks, she's finally acknowledging what's been obvious to everyone watching. The Clark effect is real. Her admission that Clark has brought more eyes, more marketing to the league, confirms what fans knew all along. But let's not mistake this for genuine respect. Swoopes didn't apologize for her false narratives. She simply couldn't deny reality anymore. The true story here isn't about who was right or wrong in these debates. It's about the unprecedented growth of women's basketball. Fans are the real winners as they witness the Fever's transformation and Clark's impact on a league that's finally getting the attention it deserves.